Hi everybody, and welcome to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. In this video, we begin with a post from the subreddit Legal Advice with an update and context added to the original post, and then we move on to some malicious compliance. So like always, if you want to move around the different parts of the video, you can always use the timestamps right below it. Now, let's get started with the first story. This post is from the subreddit Legal Advice and it's by user Broken and Confused 8. My husband drained our accounts and wants to kick the kids and I out of the house in a week. Hi, they told me in r/relationships that this is illegal and that you guys would have advice. We're in Ohio. I need a divorce lawyer. On Wednesday, I bought him an effing Christmas present. On Thursday, I found out he gave me an STI. On Friday, he admitted he's been cheating. Yesterday, he drained our accounts. He says I need to be out of the house by Christmas Eve. We've been married for 12 years. I've been out of work for 8. We have 4 kids, 8, 6, 5, and 2. I haven't worked since the oldest was born. Our relationship has been bad since before my youngest daughter was born. We hadn't meant to get pregnant. This week, I tested positive for an STI. I investigated, confronted him, and he admitted it. We had a huge fight and he stormed out of the house. Yesterday, my credit card was declined at the grocery store and I couldn't get cash. He has emptied all of our accounts. I was in charge of the bills and finances. I know exactly how much was in our checking, savings, and money market account. He's changed his password for his 401k. He didn't respond to my frantic texts all day, but just sent me an email saying I had a week to get myself and my kids out of his house, and I had better get a job or go back to my parents if I expect to feed them. He's never been a great father. He works a lot, he drinks a lot, he doesn't really care about them, but he's not been a particularly bad father, just absent. We bought the house together before the kids were born and I paid half of the down payment. I have no money or credit cards, so I can't even get a lawyer. I am sitting here staring at a Christmas tree, crying and wondering if I'll have to return my children's presents for food. I have no idea how this happened. I live 2 hours away from my family, so even if I got a job, I'd have to pay for childcare. I have no problem going back to work, but I have 3 kids who aren't in school full time, so I'd have to pay for daycare. Before my youngest was born, the plan was for me to consult part-time. I should add, my licenses have all expired, so I couldn't get a well-paying job right now, and the thought of studying again exhausts me. Also, I am on the deed of the house. We bought it right after we got married. I paid more than half the mortgage payments before I stopped working. I'm just worried that I'll have to move out of my house over Christmas. Should I sell my wedding and engagement rings? Do I make a resume and apply for a job in my old field, accounting? Or just get a job at Starbucks or McDonald's? Can he do this? Well, I'm not an expert in US law, or in any country's law for that matter, but it does sound that what the husband did is absolutely illegal. If she is in the deed of the house, then he can't do that. But what do I know, right? The one thing I do know is that OP's husband is a huge scumbag. Anyways, what do you guys think in this situation? What kind of advice would you give OP? Let me know in the comments section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see the advice that they gave OP. Durspini says, man, your attorney is going to wreck him over this. That much bad faith is going to make a judge a lot less sympathetic to any arguments he makes in his favor when determining custody and the division of assets. Do not move out until your attorney tells you to or a judge orders you out. That house is likely as much yours as it is his, and if so, he cannot evict you for any reason. If you have the money, get an attorney now and start the process of getting an emergency support order. He doesn't get to leave you high and dry like that. If you cannot afford an attorney or if he's taken all the money you might use, call around anyways or get in touch with legal aid. In the interim, do what you need to do to survive and feed your kids. Get in touch with your local food bank and with a domestic violence shelter. You are not alone. Atticus Days says, the good news, in mostly every state, if not all, what he's doing is against state statute. The bad news, as we're in a holiday period, unless you find a lawyer who knows a judge and can convince them to give you an emergency hearing, nothing can be done about this until likely after Christmas. I would definitely start looking for lawyers this week. You do not have to leave when he says you do. He can call the police. He can say his lawyer says you have to leave. But unless he has a court order giving him the home, you have the right to be there. In fact, if you want to stay in the home after the divorce, I highly suggest you do not leave unless you fear for your life or the safety of your children, which is a different story. If the house was bought during the marriage, you likely have some property rights in it. Call the police and report any threats he makes against you. And OP responds, I just realized that we're going to go to his parents' house for Christmas. I need the kids to go to sleep so I can have some wine. DH42com says, I am not a lawyer, so I generally do not know what I'm talking about, but I can offer this. If at any point he ever becomes abusive or threatening because you do not leave, call the police and file an order of protection. In the order of protection, since you are the mother of the children and the filer, they will almost certainly make him leave the marital home. A lot of times they also instruct them that they have to keep paying the mortgages as well, or they will be found in contempt of the order. If something happens and you do file one before the holidays, let the judge know the accounts were drained and he is trying to cut you off financially. This is likely to piss the judge off and he would order some action on it. Well, I think the community came through for OP, and even if she doesn't have any money, I agree with them, she should start shopping for lawyers. Now, if what the first commenter said is true, then I think OP is going to have no problem getting a lawyer to take her case. In any case, there's no need for speculation because we have an update, so let's get to it now. First, I want to say that I logged out of this account that evening and didn't come back until now, and I was blown away by all of the people offering food, gift certificates, or just goodwill, and I started crying again. I will respond to each of you individually. So, to my recap, my soon-to-be ex is a cheating ass, and he panicked and tried to erase his family. The update. This all happened a few days ago, so there wasn't a lot I could do right then. I put the kids to bed and called my mom and cried. Then I called my mother-in-law, who was horrified. My in-laws came over that night with $200 in cash and a check for much more. My father-in-law didn't say much, but he did fix my bathroom door, which is how he shows affection, and muttered that he would fix this. I opened a new checking account at a new bank, thanks for this advice, with the check my in-laws gave me. I opened a new credit card in my name. My mother deployed a niece to help with childcare for the next week. I called in a lot of child-minding favors, and with the cash my in-laws gave me, I was able to pay the babysitter while I worked this out. And I met with 2 divorce attorneys. Both of them told me what you had said, that he was legally screwed. I chose one and we set the process in motion to get an emergency hearing, but by Tuesday, my old checking account had most of the money back and my husband was asking to talk. On the advice of my lawyer, I took half of the checking account money and put it in my new bank, and kept records of everything. I pulled our credit reports. He has over $40,000 in credit card debt. I also found out that he received a raise last year and funneled this money out of our shared accounts. I would have figured this out when I did our taxes, and this led him to panicking and trying to erase us. Keep in mind, this a-hole gave me gonorrhea. I am an accountant by trade, and I am afraid of credit card debt the way some girls are afraid of spiders, so I was horrified about this. But my lawyer thinks it's likely that he'll have to have this debt on his own, as my name isn't on it, and it seems that most of it was spent on his side piece. We have started mediation, which he agreed to when he realized that he would need to pay for both of our divorce attorneys. My goal, which my lawyer thinks is reasonable, is to ask for alimony until I either remarry, not likely, or my 2-year-old is in school full-time, and to have a reasonable amount of child support until she's 18, and then we'll split college costs for all of them. When all the kids are in school, I can concentrate on getting back to work. We bought the house right after we got married. We each paid half of the down payment and I paid a portion of the mortgage for 4 years. For about 18 months, I paid more than half because I made more money. In the last 8 years, he's paid 100% of the bills. So I plan to sell the house and buy a smaller house in a less elite section of town. The kids can share rooms and I can live mortgage free. So I'm heartbroken and diseased. But there's also an incredible weight that he lifted from me. Our marriage has been bad for so long and I didn't even realize how unhappy I was and how absent my husband was. It took my 5-year-old almost a week to realize that daddy was gone. Everything is looking up. Well, OP, good for you and good riddance to that piece of crap bad husband and horrible father. Hopefully the trial goes in your favor and everything is properly set up for you and your kids in the future. Thanks for sharing, OP, all the best, and now let's move on to the next post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance and it's by user Wafer2016. Medical clerk made me stand outside in 104-degree heat, so I staged a mini revolution. Context: my town is basically on the edge of nowhere. We have a medical center for basic stuff, but a full hospital is 30 to 40 minutes in any direction depending on where you choose to go. With that in mind, we get people from a huge surrounding area that go to our town center for tests, simple medical exams, etc. Maybe as many as 50 small communities use our center on a daily basis, so it is constantly busy. The center itself is quite small compared to hospitals in the city. The various clinics and a basic ER take up most of the space, with an area by the front doors for the public to sit in if they are waiting for a ride or someone visiting a doctor. It is that waiting area that is the cause for my story today. One day, during the first summer of lockdown here, I had to go to the medical center for tests. Some things to know about me. I am challenged with multiple disabilities. I am legally blind, have significant mobility and balance issues, and have a rather severe heart condition. As such, I use a walking frame and travel using the city's provided disabled transports. That particular day, I had finished my tests early and had about 45 minutes to wait until my transport was scheduled to return to pick me up. I figured no problem, I will just sit in the waiting area and, well, wait. Haha, I shuffled over to the seats with my walker plainly evident and was confronted by a new sign. Staff only. Say what now? I looked around at all the empty seats and vacant tables and turned to the clerks at the entrance. Can I please have a seat in the waiting area until my transport comes back?
No, it's staff only. You need to wait outside.
I can't stand for 45 minutes waiting for my transport, gesturing to my plainly apparent walking frame that I was clearly leaning heavily on.
Not my problem. There are benches to sit on outside.
The benches are full and we are supposed to be social distancing, not cuddling up to random strangers on a park bench.
If you want, I suppose I could let you take a wheelchair out and sit in that.
And how am I to manage a wheelchair and my walking frame at the same time?
Again, not my problem. If you want, you can call center management when you get home. Are we done here?
I guess we are done, huh? And went outside to find a spot to wait. Well, I stood outside for 45 minutes while the sun beat down on what turned out to be a 104 Fahrenheit day, 40 degrees Celsius. As I stood there, I noticed that there was a line of patients growing steadily longer, also standing outside in the heat, waiting to be let into the building. Some looked fit, but let's face it, nobody comes to a medical center because they feel 100%. Most of them looked quite ill, and some were looking pretty faint by the time they got through the doors. By the time my transport arrived, I was badly sunburned, thirsty as hell, exhausted, and feeling more than a bit faint myself. My driver was shocked and insisted on walking me to my front door when he got me home to make sure I was okay. Shout out to all transport drivers, you guys rock! The rest of the day was a complete loss. I spent it drinking water, sleeping, and nursing the burns on my shoulders and face. Lol, I was a right mess. The next day, however, I was pissed. I had plenty of time to recover and to think, and I kept coming back to that line of patients standing in the heat. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. Cue malicious compliance. The words the clerk so smugly said,
"You can call center management when you get home if you want,"
danced through my sun-baked brain like a mantra. I called center management. What followed was a half-hour conversation with the sweetest lady. She was so nice and so upset when I told her all that went on that day before. She was specifically concerned when she found out about the line of people waiting outside on what turned out to be the hottest day we had that summer. After our talk, the manager promised to look into it and get back to me. Now, normally, that's sort of a brush off, right? Not so with this lady. 2 days later, she called me back. Turned out she had spent the day before sitting at the clerk's desk observing things that went on. Things like patients being forced to stand in the rain waiting to get into the center. Patients are being poorly spoken to by the same clerk. And the cherry on top? At one point, a tiny elderly lady tried to sit down in the waiting area, and the same clerk ran over and rudely shoved her aside and snapped,
"Staff only!"
with her boss sitting right there. The manager went over, tore down the signs, apologized to the lady, and helped her to a seat, then took the clerk into her office for a chat. The results: the center was immediately restructured. Staff was moved into an unused gift shop. The waiting room was returned to the public. And best of all, the registry desks were moved so patients no longer had to stand outside waiting to get into the building. I never saw that clerk there again. I know this isn't as exciting as most stories on here, but knowing I was part of making things so much better for so many still makes me happy. Dang it, I am proud of my Mini Coupe. Ha ha ha! Vive la résistance! And all that crap. Nicely done, OP. I think it was a really good story. Thank you for sharing. You did change the lives of so many just by, doing what the clerk asked you to do. Call the management. And it's that time that we've reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. I certainly did reading them to you. So if you did, then go ahead and give the video a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and become a member of our Discord community that just keeps growing, and it is fantastic. All of the relevant links are in the video description below, so be sure to check them out. And finally, I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to watch this video. It really does mean a lot to me that you guys enjoy this content, so thank you once again. And having said all that, I will see you guys in the next video.